Alright guys, the design calls for the top and bottom to be 45 by 24 approximately. Now keep in mind that the way it's set up right now, the top and the bottom are going to determine the outside dimensions, so that 45 by 24 is the actual cut of the top and bottom. The sides are going to be 22.5 by 31.5 because they're actually going to butt up against the top and the bottom, and in the end you'll get your 33 overall top to bottom dimension. So the sides will butt up against it like that. So the main piece that I have to start with to get my measurements, the final measurements, I've got them all wrote down, but to get the actual final measurements, I'm going to need the bottom. The bottom is what I'm going to use to brace everything on, because the sides are going to butt up against the bottom. The front pieces are going to butt up against the sides. Okay, so the bottom is first, and the back is the same way as the front. So the bottom and the back, bottom first, then the back, then the sides, which bolt onto the back and onto the bottom, and then the front, and then the top. It all goes in, you know, pretty much in steps because it's all overlapping other parts of that. Now the reason we gotta be 45 and not 48, okay, because 48 is what's laying in here. This obviously fits, right? But when you get up here, which is, if you look at the 33, and I've got this trim out down here to add extra clearance, but if you look at the 33, it comes up to about right here, right? Right here, I got about 47 inches in width. So 48 just ain't going to, 48's right about here. And 33 is about here. So it won't quite go in here at a 48-inch sheet. That's why we're doing in the 45. Unfortunate. It's unfortunate. It would be so much easier. So we got our top and bottoms, we need our sides. The sides are going to be 22.5 by 31.5. 22.5 is to cover this distance here, and 31.5 is going up. And the 31.5, it doesn't have anything to measure. There's nothing that already existed I'm cutting to, so the 31.5 is going to become its own standard. The 22.5 is based off of what's left of after you take 3/4 off of this and this to get to those measurements. So there's an existing thing that is involved in that 22.5 being exactly 22.5, and the main thing that exists is the thickness of the back and the front. So we got our top and bottom, the 45 and 24s. We got our sides, the 22.5 by 31.5. Now all we need is the back and the front. The front is going to be two pieces of 20.25 by 21, or 20.25 by, I don't know. I'll figure that out. I gotta go pee. All right, so the main thing is the next piece, since we've already got sides and the top and bottom, next piece is the back. And we'll deal with the front afterwards because it's going to be, we're going to get most of the box put together before we put that on. So it's going to be some shorter pieces anyway. So we need the back is 31.5 by 45. And we know how that goes. And drag another sheet out. The top is going to be 45. The top's going to lap over the back. So it needs to be the same. The sides are going to butt up against the back. So the top and the back need to be the same width. Yeah, that works out. Just stupid checking, you know, sanity check. Measure twice, 3 times, 5 times, cut once. Okay, that makes sense. I went through this already, but I just need to 1500 millionth check myself. Alright, so the hardest part about getting the box started is connecting the first 2 pieces. On a smaller box, kind of struggle it into an L and get some glue and screws and get her going. This thing's pretty big, so I'm going to use my brain a little bit, and some of this scrap, I already planned on doing this, but I'm going to use it to create a ledge to line everything up, and also to add a gluing surface with.
Dropping that bass like a boom, boom, boom. In the bar.
Somehow, when cutting this back piece, I measured wrong, big time. Like, I don't even know what I did, but I measured it really wrong. This is the correct line. You see how bad of a gap that is? That wasn't a bad cut. That was me looking at the tape wrong. I don't know what I did exactly, but we're going to have to change things up a little bit. So I'm going to cut it down to 30 inches. And then I'm going to figure out how to extend it some. I don't know, but I got to make it straight. And yeah, I just screwed up, man. Somewhere I screwed up. So that's the correct line. So let me get that cut. I decided that we're going to continue on the same way we were going. We're going to leave these pieces the same length, and we're going to cut a strip and a scab in here for the brace. It'll all be fine, and everything should be fine. It's going to be fine. We're going to make bass. God, this is a big box. A lot bigger than you think when you look at the measurements. When you see it in person, it gets really big. So I got the scabs on here, got this piece put together, got it all glued and screwed. It should be fine. My ports are coming back 20 inches, so they're going to stop short of this brace. Not going to be a problem there. Same thing with the bottom piece. which I added. The screws do go all the way through. I can either hammer those off, hammer them and break them, or I could back these screws out when the glue dries. But I wanted to put them through on this side, make sure I had good solid adhesion for the glue, because the glue is what's holding this all together, not the screws. Screws are just a bonus. So we have a setup that's going to work. I checked the measurements. Oops, about to fall on my head. I checked the measurements here just to make sure, and we're at 32 1/4, which is perfect, because we're going to be adding 3/4 of an inch to the top of this, and it's the same on both sides. That means I haven't done any more stupid stuff. We're at 32 1/4 on both sides, and everything is hunky-dory. So this is the bottom over there, sides, and the top is missing, and the front is missing. The front being the baffle side. The baffle is going to sit up on top of this ledge. So it's going to sit right here up against this where my hand is. Guys, this is by far the biggest box I've ever put together, and I'm having to make it up as I go along, a lot of it, but I know that I need to run 2 or 3 or more layers on this wood. But fact is, that's more than my budget allows me to do right off the bat. So I'm going to have to be creative about how I build strength into this box. Understand, this is a budget box, an extreme budget box, and we're going to be using as much recycled material as we can. I'm building the shell out of 3/4 inch plywood. This is going to be the pressure part of it. So I need this to be sealed up and airtight, which it's going to be. The rest of it can be anything I want to use just to make these sides rigid. Now the front, the baffle is going to come over like this, about this far actually, and then there's going to be the port coming back in. The port's going all the way to the top and the bottom. That's going to chamber the sections of the port into 3 different positions. So there's 2 different braces happening that'll be bracing the top and the bottom, and the top and the bottom together. So that's a good solid brace for the top and the bottom. The sides, I'm going to end up putting a ridge over here, a piece that runs like this, that comes out, that'll stop the sides from flexing as much. That's not a problem. The tough one is going to be the back, because the back, the ports don't go all the way to the back, obviously. It wouldn't work very well if they did. The back is kind of loosey-goosey, and I need to leave as much of the interior chamber open as I can for the ports to be able to breathe. So I'm leaving about 4 inches there, which is about what I'm going to have on the port. 4 inches on each side. I only really need to leave 2 inches on each side, but I'm going to leave 4. So I'll have room for the air, but I'm going to have to do the bracing on the back from the outside. So this will be the interior piece for the back. The back's going to look just like this on the inside. The sides are going to get a piece that runs across this way, and then the port is going to brace the top and the bottom. And then I'm also going to brace the back from the outside when I get it in the vehicle. I'm going to add an extra sheet, or maybe 2 sheets back there to cover that up. I'm going to probably add a dowel rod from the center of between the subs. It'll be sub here, sub here. So I'm going to add something from here to the back, which will help brace the baffle some in the middle between the subs, and also again help brace the back a little bit. So I'm going to do a lot of interior bracing in very specific ways, and some exterior bracing, but I'm doing this without using, I'm on 2 budgets here. One is money, okay? So I got a little bit of money. 2, I want to keep it as light as I can, so I'm on a weight budget. So I got a little bit of weight. Now the thing I have a lot of is time. I have all the time in the world, But I do not have a closed-in garage, so I do have to come out here and work whenever the weather permits me to. And that by itself makes things difficult. Having said that, I got the shell built, which is the foundation for everything else, and that's a good start. Now, the reason I'm going to stop at this point is because I'm running out of glue, and I've got to have I got to get the jigsaw out for the baffles and all that. So what I'll probably do is do as much of the bracing as I can, then put the top on, then put the port boards in, okay, leaving the 2 baffles for the very last. And so I can cut in the ports and get those installed, the 2 ports that run front to back, right? Get that port built, and that'll leave me the ledge here and a ledge here to set the baffle on. And I'll do the baffle at the very end, but because when I get everything cut and put together for the baffle, then I'll take my final measurements of what I've got and cut the baffle to fit that. Again, I know what it should be, but with little things going off here and there, 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch, shifting around, I want to make sure that I cut the baffle to fit the existing enclosure the way it's put together. So what I'm doing on the inside, one thing I'm doing is coming from here, a board like this, should be 22.5, and that's what we got. So I got that part right. And to explain what I'm talking about, be something like this, right? That comes up sub, okay? Here. It comes up the back, connects to the back, connects to the side, and connects to the baffle. To add bracing here, a little bit in the corner of the back, and also to add bracing to the baffle itself on this side between the 2 subs. This, of course, on both sides. Haven't got the exact dimensions of all that figured out yet, but that's what I'm shooting for, something like that. That'll help brace the sides and the baffle. Got to get as much bracing as I can on this baffle. Normally, guys will be running like, 3 inches thick of baffle. I'm not going to have that much meat up there, so I've got to do lots of bracing. Again, I'm trying to keep the weight in check, so that's why we're doing very strategic bracing. So going back to my plans, I'm running out of daylight. Going back to my plans, my baffle is 20.25 each side, so I can come out like 16, 17 inches in the dead center. I don't want to get too close to this port because the port's going to be on the inside of the baffle, so there's a 3/4 inch there, so it's like 19 and 19 and a half. I could come out to 19 and a half and still be okay, but I don't want to do too much to block off the airflow from the subs mixing the chamber back there. So I'm thinking about something that comes out and curves, so it starts narrower in the back and then curves in so it's thicker up this way, to add rigidity to the baffle and the sides, and still allow for lots of airflow to mix between those 2 subs and that port. That's kind of what I got in my brain. I know that's hard to visualize, but yeah. So a board that starts narrow back here and then comes out and curves like this to line up to the baffle. A sweep like that, or an angle. It ain't got to be a curve, but I want to allow plenty of room back there, and I still want to bring that in and get that bracing on that front baffle. I think that'll work pretty good. Kind of bracing this up like a acoustic guitar. So this piece is 16 and a about 16 and a quarter. So let me check it on both ends because I don't know. I had a crooked cut earlier. Yeah, it's 16 and a quarter shy. So that'd work perfect for coming out to meet the baffle. And so I would need it to be 22 and a half. 22 and a half. So what I would do, I'm using the interior of the box as a table. That's how big this plastic thing is. 22 and a half here. Put my T-square on it. 22 and a half. And then I know I could measure from that side, but we're going to do it this way. 22 and a half by 22 and a half, and that'll give us our starting squares. And do I have a piece down there that's a factory edge? No. I'll use the log. The log. You guys are in the way, but it'll be okay. We'll use the log. The log is actually very straight. I used it earlier on one cut. We'll get our lines made with the log, and then we'll double check our lines because my brain is feeling weird about that one. But that's okay, because my brain feels weird all the time. It's an old man thing. That looks straight. After having made one drastic mistake, I'm double checking myself in every way I can. 22 and a half, 22 and a half, 22 and a half, 22 and a half, 27 and 3/4 shy, 27 and 3/4 shy. Okay, so that's good. All right, I have created a thing that looks a bit like a sign. So what I want to do is figure out how much of this I want. Come all the way over here. That's going to make it awful small back in the back. I'd like to have it on that back a little bit. Yeah. So maybe right about where my thumb is. That should be pretty good, huh? I'll put a mark there. Now this ain't got to be beautiful. It just needs to be looking pretty good. It's going to be inside the box after all. But it's also going to be on the internet. Okay. There's one. Let's get it in the ballpark there. And those are pretty close. So then we're building. We use these. My homemade circle jig there. Now all I need to do is get rid of this, this, and this. And what we have left is our braces. So I guess I need to bust out Joe Biden. Let me go get Joe. Meet Joe. He was taking a nap. He was $5 at a yard sale. I got it for free. He was taking a nap, but I offered him a candy bar and he woke up. No, Joe, he's old. He's a little bit loose. Sometimes he's a little bit crooked. But given the right persuasion, he will plow through a situation. All right, so that's how those are going to fit, just like that. But they're not going to fit down here, obviously. They're going to go up here. And you know, I got to get the measurements right for them, and I got to get some more glue. So 31.5 will be 15.25 to the center. All right, we got that one in, looking good. This will be attaching to the front panel. Let's get the other one in. Yeah, if I'd had bigger pieces of wood, I could have brought this all the way up to where the port's going to be, but I didn't. Working with what I have, again, budget, big time. So that's not a thing. The port's going to be 4.5 inches. It's going to be like right in here. There's going to be a few inches on either side. There'll be a hole. I ain't worried about it. It would have been nice, but I ain't worried about it. It's actually going to be a pretty narrow spot because 4.5 inches plus 3/4 and 3/4 is going to be a little bigger than that. But we got the thing in this shape today. And even without any braces, this thing is really solid. Now these are floppy because they're not attached to it, but